Danny White retired with 21,959 passing yards, 155 touchdown passes, and a 62-30 regular season record as a starting quarterback. He was a Pro Bowler, led the Dallas Cowboys to 3 straight NFC Championship Games, and was one of the most unique dual-threat players in NFL history. Not because he could run, but because he was also the team's punter. He also never won a Super Bowl as a starting quarterback, lost all 3 of those NFC Championship games, and had his legacy forever tied to one of the most heartbreaking moments in Cowboys history. For over 3 decades since his retirement, Danny White has been one of the most underrated and overlooked quarterbacks of his era. So now that we've had time to look back, over 35 years after he last played, it's time to ask the question that never really got answered. How good was Danny White actually? Before we continue, if you enjoy this content, please like and subscribe to the channel. Now let's dive in. Let's rewind to where this all started. Mesa, Arizona. Danny White wasn't supposed to be a star quarterback. He was a multi-sport athlete who excelled at baseball and football, but his path to NFL stardom was anything but conventional. At Arizona State, White became one of the most successful quarterbacks in college football history, compiling a 32-4 record from 1971 to 1973. At Arizona State, White was pure dominance. 3 Western Athletic Conference titles, 3 consecutive Fiesta Bowl victories, and All-American honors in 1973. He wasn't just a quarterback, he was a winner who elevated everyone around him. His combination of arm strength, accuracy, and football IQ made him one of the most coveted prospects in the country. But here's where White's story takes an interesting turn. Instead of going directly to the NFL, he signed with the Memphis Southmen of the World Football League in 1974. The WFL was trying to compete with the NFL by signing top talent, and White was one of their marquee acquisitions. He spent 2 seasons in Memphis, serving as both quarterback and punter before the league folded. Tom Landry saw something special in this dual-threat player who could both throw and punt at an elite level. The Cowboys signed White in 1976, and he began his NFL career as a backup to Roger Staubach while also handling punting duties. The early years were about learning and waiting. White spent 4 seasons backing up Staubach, occasionally getting spot duty, but mostly watching one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history operate. But White was also making his mark as a punter, averaging over 40 yards per punt and becoming one of the most reliable specialists in the league. Then came 1979, and everything changed. Roger Staubach announced his retirement after the season, and suddenly the Dallas Cowboys needed a new starting quarterback. The pressure was immense. Staubach had led the Cowboys to 2 Super Bowl victories and was a living legend in Dallas. White would have to fill shoes that seemed impossible to fill. The 1980 season was White's coming out party. Taking over as the full-time starter, he threw for 3,287 yards and 28 touchdowns, while leading the Cowboys to a 12-4 record. In the 1980 playoffs, Dallas beat the Los Angeles Rams in the wild card round and then the Atlanta Falcons in a famous 30-27 comeback. The Cowboys overcame a deficit in the final quarter, showcasing White's leadership and Pearson's clutch catches, earning it the nickname Duel and Dixie. The Cowboys lost the NFC Championship game to the Philadelphia Eagles 20-7, with White and the offense struggling in cold, windy conditions. The NFC Championship game, often referred to as the Blue Jersey game, saw the Eagles, as the home team, wearing white, forcing Dallas to wear their unlucky blue jerseys. But it was the next 3 seasons that would define White's legacy and create one of the most frustrating what-if stories in NFL history. The 1981 season was spectacular. White threw for 3,098 yards and 22 touchdowns, while leading the Cowboys to another 12-4 record. 1982, Candlestick Park, the game that would haunt Danny White for the rest of his career. The Cowboys led 27-21 late in the game. White had thrown for 173 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Dallas was minutes away from another Super Bowl appearance. Then came the catch. Joe Montana to Dwight Clark, 28-27, 49ers. White got the ball back with under a minute left. A sack fumble of White effectively ended the drive. The Cowboys season was over, and White's first real heartbreak as a starting quarterback was complete. The 1982 season brought another chance. Despite the strike-shortened season, the Cowboys made the playoffs, and White led them on another run to the NFC Championship game. This time, they faced Washington, and once again, White came up just short. The Redskins won 31-17, and White's another NFC Championship game loss was in the books. 3 straight NFC Championship games. 3 straight losses. For any quarterback, that would be devastating, but for White, it created a narrative that would follow him for the rest of his career, that he couldn't win the big one. But let's look at what White actually accomplished during those 3 seasons. From 1980 to 1982, he threw for almost 9,000 yards and over 60 touchdowns in the regular season while leading the Cowboys to a combined 37-11 record. His passer rating during that stretch was consistently above league average, and he was doing it while also punting for the team. The dual role aspect of White's career can't be overlooked. He wasn't just a quarterback, he was also one of the best punters in the NFL. White had to prepare for defensive schemes as a quarterback, while also studying film on return units as a punter. He had to maintain the arm strength and accuracy needed for passing, while also developing the leg strength and technique required for punting. It was unprecedented then, and it would be impossible in today's NFL. The numbers from White's prime years tell the story of a consistently excellent quarterback. From 1980 to 1985, including the postseason, he threw for over 18,000 yards and over 120 touchdowns. His completion percentage was consistently in the mid to high 50s, which was solid for that era. His touchdown to interception ratio was positive in most seasons, and he was rarely the reason the Cowboys lost games. But the playoff record haunted him, 5-5 overall, with those 3 consecutive NFC Championship game losses serving as the defining moments of his career. White was good enough to get the Cowboys to the brink of greatness, but he couldn't get them over the hump. The mid-1980s brought declining production and increasing criticism. Injuries began to mount, and White's numbers started to slip. The Cowboys' offensive line wasn't what it had been during the Staubach era, and White was taking more hits. His mobility was never great to begin with, and as he aged, he became more vulnerable to pass rushers. The 1986 season was particularly difficult. White threw for just 2,617 yards and 17 touchdowns while dealing with injuries and inconsistent play. The Cowboys went 7-9, missing the playoffs for the first time since White became the starter. The final years of White's career were a slow fade. His final numbers: 21,959 passing yards, 155 touchdowns, and 132 interceptions were solid, but not spectacular. So how good was Danny White actually? Let's break it down. From a pure talent perspective, White was very good, but not great. White's career passer rating of 81.7 was above average for his era, but not elite. His completion percentage of 59.7% was solid, and his touchdown to interception ratio of 155 to 132 was respectable. He was a good quarterback who could manage games and make plays when needed. But here's where White's value becomes clear: his impact on winning. The Cowboys were 62-30 in regular season games that White started, a winning percentage of 66%. That's the mark of a quarterback who consistently put his team in position to succeed. The playoff record, while disappointing in terms of ultimate success, shows that White could elevate his play when it mattered. 5 playoff wins prove that he wasn't just a regular season quarterback. The context of his era matters too. White played in a time when defenses could be much more physical with receivers, when offensive lines weren't as protected by rules, and when quarterbacks took bigger hits. His durability and consistency in that environment were impressive. The dual role factor adds another dimension to White's value. Tom Landry, one of the greatest coaches in NFL history, trusted White to run his complex offensive system. Players talked about White's preparation, his understanding of the game, and his ability to make adjustments at the line of scrimmage. But the elephant in the room is those 3 NFC Championship game losses. For many fans and analysts, that's White's defining legacy, the quarterback who couldn't get over the hump. It's a harsh judgment, but it's not entirely unfair. Great quarterbacks find ways to win the biggest games, and White came up short when it mattered most. The what-if scenarios are endless. What if the catch had been incomplete? What if the Cowboys had won just one of those 3 NFC Championship games? White's legacy would be completely different. He'd be remembered as the quarterback who successfully replaced a legend and brought another championship to Dallas. Instead, he's remembered as a very good quarterback who fell just short of greatness. It's a cruel twist of fate for a player who did almost everything right, but couldn't quite reach the mountaintop. Comparing White to his contemporaries provides useful context. He was clearly better than most starting quarterbacks of his era, but not quite at the level of the true elites. He was more consistent than someone like Terry Bradshaw, but not as clutch. He was more durable than someone like Ken Anderson, but not as accurate. The advanced metrics available today would probably be kinder to White than the traditional statistics. His ability to avoid turnovers, his efficiency in the red zone, and his performance under pressure were all solid. He wasn't spectacular, but he was reliable. The cultural impact was significant too. White proved that a quarterback could successfully replace a legend if he had the right combination of talent, preparation, and mental toughness. He showed that dual-role players could succeed at the highest level. He was a bridge between the Staubach era and the Troy Aikman era, maintaining the Cowboys' relevance during a crucial transition period. The tragedy of White's career is that he was probably good enough to win a Super Bowl with better luck or better timing. The Cowboys teams he led were talented enough to compete with anyone, but they ran into buzzsaw 49ers and Redskins teams that were historically great. In the end, Danny White was really good, not great, but really good. He was a Pro Bowl-level quarterback with unique versatility who consistently led winning teams. He was a bridge player who maintained excellence during a difficult transition, and he did it while handling responsibilities that no modern quarterback could imagine. His legacy is complicated by those near misses, but it shouldn't be defined by them. White was a winner who came agonizingly close to ultimate success. He was a professional who handled an impossible situation, replacing Roger Staubach with grace and competence. Most importantly, he was respected by teammates, opponents, coaches, and fans who understood what he was trying to accomplish. In a league full of talented players, earning that level of respect while carrying the burden of replacing a legend is perhaps the greatest achievement of all. What do you think? Was Danny White underrated, overrated, or properly rated? Could he have won a Super Bowl with better luck? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next one.